So I'm a software engineer, and I'm a gal. So as you can imagine, I'm always either the only or one of very, very few non-males in the team. This mic is from a previous job of mine. I was the primary SWE, software engineer, on a project one random Wednesday. Yes, I remember the day of the week. We had a meeting scheduled with the client. This was a large company and the client was in a different country, so the meeting was scheduled virtually. Now, if you know anything about me, I'm a bit of a promiscuous gal, and I guess this day I was being a bit silly and wore a dress that was a teeny tiny but too short. At lunch, I was told by my manager that someone had complained, and I needed to go home and change. I knew I was wrong and immediately apologized, but I brought up the meeting I had coming up. Now, as per company policy, we could not take any company equipment home unless we were the scheduled on call or unless we had permission. I could not take this call from home without the company laptop I needed to demo something, and I knew none of the other engineers on my team could manage the demo. Yes, they knew how it worked, but no one knew it as well as me, and they had to refer to manuals to do the demo and answer questions, which is not a great presentation for the client. So I offered two options. I get to take the company laptop home for the night. I sit in one of the conference rooms for the next hour and a half and then join the meeting from that room. I was told neither was an option. I either had to go home and then return after changing, or go home and join in the call via telephone and let a teammate present. I presented my arguments and my manager then told me that I should change and come back. There's no ways I was doing that mainly because it would take too long. I made that clear. So he offered that I could take the next off out of my unlimited medical leave if I came back because he knew how important the client was. I once again suggested I take the company laptop home. I had done it multiple times when I was on call, so it wasn't a trust issue. He said, no, that's only when you cannot take a call from the office. I gave one more shot to explaining that even if I went home and left right away, I would miss most of the call, but he did not care. He said he would take care of the call until I reached. I said, okay, and put in the next day off, along with an email confirming what we had discussed and then headed home. I obviously was not in a rush. I got home, changed, and went back to the office. As soon as I left home, I started receiving frantic calls, asking where I was. I explained that it would take me 45 minutes to reach the office if traffic allowed, and they should start the call. Bottom line, no one was prepared. Everyone freaked out and made a mess of the presentation. The client was unimpressed and did not move forward with any further projects. So yes, I messed up, but I was willing to make up for it. He did not listen to me and chose to dismiss my statements, so I did exactly what he wanted. Could I have stopped at a mall 5 minutes away and picked up leggings? Yes. Yes. Did I choose to follow his instructions by a letter? Yes. Yes. Edit. I cannot reply to so many comments, so thank you everyone for your comments. I want to clarify that the problem was not with my outfit being too short for the meeting. If the meeting had happened before the complaint reached my manager, I'd have gone home and taken the L on the half day. But the problem came because I had to attend the meeting and they had to enforce their punishment on me. I forgot to put the outcome. The manager did try to blame me, but I simply reminded him that I had told him about the issue and emailed him the discussion of our meeting. I had explicitly told him this would happen if he sent me home to change, but he said he would handle it. He wasn't that bad of a person to say that didn't happen, so he simply used that to make our lives harder about everyone being fully involved in all projects, which meant a lot more meetings and a lot less work getting done. So I quit not much longer, and I know multiple others did because it was affecting bonuses too. This happened a few years ago when I used to keep my phone on call because of uni during the times I would try to take a small nap in between classes and studying more classes. Also, caller ID systems weren't as good as now, so no way to know if it was a spam call, if the number had the same area code as you, or without you paying a good amount of cash to your cell provider. Here it is common to have call centers offering you a change of phone plans, or even of phone companies. The call centers seem to give a phone number list to each of their workers and wait to see if they manage to lure the users to agree to a seemingly good change. Every time I would go to sleep for a little while by the afternoon, I would get called. Every time I would answer, the exact same woman with a very recognizable accent, not normal for this place in the country, would talk to me about changing my plan. I remember cutting the call at first. Then I decided to ask her to stop calling me at those hours, to no avail. Then I opted on not answering her when I recognized the number, and she started using others. So one day after 2 weeks of dealing with this woman calling me, she finally called the day I was up and I decided to let her talk. On this, I should say that I was aware that most of these people are trained in leading you to agree, even if you cut the call or don't want the change. How? How? By dividing their speech in small sentences and asking for you to confirm if you understand. If you happen to agree with them by saying yes, or making an agreeing sound, they could use that recorded call to say you have agreed with them. Well, every time she asked for confirmation about me understanding what she had said, I just hummed and she kept going on. After 5 minutes that seemed like an eternity, during what she told me how this newer plan would have cheaper calling fees, cheaper data package, unlimited SIMs in between people of the same company, and a lot more of good improvs by a reduced mensual fee compared to the one I had back then. She decided to ask me if I was willing to change my plan. I told her that I wouldn't, and that was when the facade fell. She started sounding annoyed because of my reluctance and asked why wouldn't I agree to that plan. I said that I didn't want it, and she asked again, not before proceeding to number all the improvements I would have and how that also came with a cheaper payment plan on a condescending tone. Dear Reddit, I was happy we got there. I told her I won't agree because most of those plans have a small lettering that almost always claims an increase of the fee from the second year and a clause that bans you from abandoning them before a certain number of years passes, therefore making you to pay that first-year reduction on the upcoming ones by double or more. I asked her how much time was that new contract obliged me to stay and how much would be the increase over the second and third years. And she said she didn't have information on that, but still kept claiming not understanding me, not wanting to pay less during the first year along all the spiel about the advantages I would have, while sounding very annoyed. I told her once again that I would not agree to any change of contract or payment plan without all the info on the subject, and especially when not being able to read or know about important information like the obliged extension or monthly yearly increase. I asked her to not call me ever again as she did during weeks, because I would never agree to any phone plan change without signing a physical copy at the physical location of said phone company. The entire call probably lasted for a good 10+ minutes. After that, the calls from that particular caller stopped. Maybe it wasn't a big revenge, but it felt so good to finally be able to nap free from annoying calls while knowing I wasted her time. See, I get people have jobs like this, and most of the times I just cut the call and leave them use their time on annoying another customer. This time felt different because she constantly bothered me while I was tired and asking her not to call at those times. Also, never had other telemarketer getting annoyed and sounding condescending while explaining me things. I am a 23-year-old nanny and have posted entitled parent stories from that job. But I do also hold another position as a cashier at night weekends, and I finally have one from this job. So I work as a cashier at a 24-hour grocery store. And at this particular store, while we do technically have a corporate office and are a chain in a way, we are privately owned, and the employees are considered the owners because we invest part of our pay into the company. And while we have management and supervisors, we are given broad discretion with denying service and throwing people out. Basically, if you have a good reason and they can see it in our cameras, there is a good reason we are good to go. Okay, out for the story. It was a busy Saturday afternoon just a few days ago, and we were packed to the point the lines are wrapped around aisles. So it is loud, busy, packed, and hot. I'm tired and see it's only about 30 minutes till my shift ends, and I'm trying to keep up my nice smile and customer service voice. Briefly to my side, I hear a kid yell he looks about 3-ish. Not like tantrum, but like just angry trying to get mom's attention. I ignore him because kids having tantrums or getting angry is normal. I start talking to the lady in front of me, and I hear the kid, who by the way was actually quite sweet. He yells again, for Mom. Mom, I want my juice now, he was yelling. But it was no way close to a tantrum or a fit. His family was the next in line. Frankly, if he'd been in a different line, I probably wouldn't have noticed at all. In my opinion, he was more like getting the mom's attention. And his mom, entitled Mom, just snaps. She turns around, grabs him by his shoulders, goes nose to nose and screams as she shakes him back and forth, "You will not behave like this, you brat. I'm so tired of this. If you do not stop, you will get a beating when we get home." Now I was shocked, and so was everyone around. She did not say punishment or even spanking. She said beating. Now I was about to tell the lady in front of me to excuse me while I talked to the mother, but she jumped in so fast. She went up to the entitled mother and said, "How dare you talk to your son like that? He is a child, and you should never put your hands on him or threaten him and then embarrass him in front of everyone." I was proud this lady said something, but I was still going to a pain. I paid for a manager in the process because I had a feeling this would go bad. Entitled mother starts yelling back she has the right to do whatever she wants to her son. She could spank, beat, and yell as she saw fit. Now I jump on verbally. "Ma'am, I need you to take yourself and leave the store. Your children and husband, who by the way did nothing during this, can check out, but you need to leave." "Excuse me," she yelled. "You need to leave. We do not tolerate abusive children or other customers." You have some both by screaming at this woman. I turned to the other woman, and as much as I didn't want to have to say, "Mom, I appreciate your concern, but let us handle this," I had to say it. She wasn't mad, and she stepped away to bag her thing. I turned back to the mom, and she had losing it. "You can't do that. I have the right to shop here. I demand to see a manager, blah, blah, blah." I swear she reaches a pitch only dogs could hear. At this point, my awesome manager shows up. "Hey, OP, what's going on?" Before I can speak, entitled mother speaks up. This witch won't let me check out because she doesn't like how I discipline my child. That's not true, manager. What happened was, before I could finish, he spoke up. Ma'am, we do not tolerate name-calling in our store, and I need you to be quiet so I can hear from both of you. He turns to me. I then rattle off the story and his eyes widen. Mind you again? It's a busy day and other customers are around listening and about 3 or 4 people jump in to defend me. Thankfully, my manager listened too. He turns to the lady and her family, ma'am. I need you to leave this store. Your family can finish checking out, but you need to leave. If you don't, I'll call the police. Frankly, you'll be lucky if I don't do that anyway with the threats you keep making. She tries to stand up for herself, but my manager just escorts her out. The family just follows after her, without their food. You'd think this was the end, but nope. About 15-ish minutes later, after I fill out a report with my manager explaining everything, I head outside to get in my car and head home. I'm on the phone with a friend trying to explain what happened with the lady, but as I walk outside, I see a police car outside with no lights. I thought it was weird because I didn't see anyone get caught shoplifting that day. So I shrug and move on, and as I reach my car, I hear it. That's the girl, officer. She's the one who assaulted me and refused to let me shop here. I turn and see the woman from earlier with her kids and husband with 2 cops. I couldn't help it. I laugh. Are you serious, lady? My friend is trying to talk to me, but the officer just says, ma'am, can you come here so I can get your side and settle this? I tell my friend I'll call her back and go talk to the officer. He keeps me away from the entitled mother, but I can still see and hear her. I briefly explain what happened. I told him I believed what she was doing to her son was abusive and that it was not okay. The cop asked for specifics, and I told him what I saw and heard her threaten. But before the cop can say anything, the entitled mother yells, I'm his mother. I can discipline as I see fit. I can beat him if I want. Again, I'm wide-eyed with her wording, still using beating, not spanking, and the cop looks just as shocked. If you'd like, my manager is inside. His name is X, and he can show you the cameras. And the store actually has microphones so you can hear what she says. I admit that I refused service and called her abusive, but that's it. I never touched her. Entitled mother, still yelling, see? She admits to verbally assaulting me and refusing me service because of who I am. Arrest her. The cop sighs, looks at his partner and nods. He looks at me and says, okay, you can go. I'm going to give you this card with an email. You can send your statement there too about what happened. The cop turns to the lady, and I see the other cop has his hand on the entitled mother, saying something to her. I'm assuming it was about her being arrested or investigated because she then shouted, no, I did nothing wrong. She should be charged, not me. I'm his mom and can do what I want. She tries to leave, and while one has his hand on her arm, the other stops her. She instantly backs down and goes inside with one of the officers. The other stays with the kids and husband who hadn't said anything throughout all this, just looking at the ground. I couldn't resist. Before she was out of earshot, I yelled, have a good day, Karen. The cop turned and gave me that look of, don't push your lucks. I shrugged and got in my car and called my friend back to tell her what happened. When I got back to work on Sunday, I asked my manager what happened. He said he showed the video and made a report. Mom got arrested and we were told CPS would be getting involved more than likely. I really hope that the dad is a good parent and she's the only abusive one. I hope those kids get a better life. And I hope that poor boy knows he did nothing wrong. I'll update if I hear any more from the cops about the case. Backstory. At the time of this story, I was 19 and lived in a house with my 5 siblings, my parents, grandparents, uncle, and his twin sons. My siblings and I shared a room. My parents had a room and my grandparents had the back room. My uncle and his kids lived in the backyard in a tent. The reason they lived in the backyard is because my uncle used to treat my parents like it was his house and would criticize how we would clean. When my parents told him that it was their house and not his, he bought a tent and refused to come back in. My siblings and I do not get along with our uncle because he had always disrespected us and called us names. His kids were no better. They would constantly be telling us that we need to stop doing boy things. My siblings and I would also have to keep all of our valuables close because our cousins were known thieves. At this time, I had been experimenting with special effects, makeup, and liquid latex. This story is 3 days before Halloween and on Halloween. Characters, me, 4 siblings, cousin 1, cousin 2, Uncle Garrett, and Dad. Story time. I had just started working on a makeup look in my bedroom when cousin 1 walked in on his phone looking around. I ignored him and hoped he'd walk away and just leave me alone without any confrontation. Of course, that was too much to ask. After hanging up the phone, he walked up to me and just stared. Cousin 1, hey, no boy will ever want you if you keep wearing makeup and dressing like that. I just nodded without looking up from my mirror. I knew he hated it when he couldn't get a rise out of me, but I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. Hey, I'm talking to you. I'll tell your dad that you're being rude to me and you'll get in trouble. See, I knew he was lying. He wasn't supposed to be in my room when nobody was home. If my dad knew that he was in the room, the boys and my uncle would be locked out of the house. He then started to slap my mirror while I was doing my contour. At this point, I was getting really angry and irritated. I decided to finally answer him. What do you want? Quit ignoring me. No man wants a girl so obsessed with her makeup. You need to get rid of it. He walked up to my desk and started grabbing my stuff. I didn't use most because they were colors I didn't like to use. But then he grabbed all of my eyeliners. I got up and grabbed the makeup out of his hands and put it back where it belonged. No, I don't think so. Leave my stuff alone. Get out of my room. I wear makeup because I like it. You're ugly with or without it anyways. No one will ever like you, you trash. You don't even have talent, your makeup looks bad, he hissed out with a smile. With that, I felt my ears get hot and I pushed him out of the room. If I had a door, I would have slammed it. I'll admit, I may have pushed him a little bit rougher than I meant to, but I was angry. I always got comments about my makeup because I have a more alternative style and like bold colors. I told my sisters about everything that had happened and they just told me that he was a jerk and they all love my makeup. They all also had asked me if I was still willing to do their makeup for their Halloween costumes. Of course, I said yes. Halloween arrived and I began doing the girls' makeup while my cousins sat and watched. Two of them asked for lots of liquid latex and fake blood, seeing as how they were doing as zombies. It was perfect. Of course, they'd want to be something that a boy should be. I bet that's why you cut your hair. Commented cousin 2, making cousin 1 laugh out loud, and my sisters looked sad. I saw my sisters start to pick at the liquid latex and were trying to get it off. Hey girls, don't forget that y'all are going to be the scariest looking zombies ever. Y'all better act like it. Tell you what, you can take 2 of my black shirts and tear them up for your costume. Sounds good? When I mentioned my black t-shirts, they got really happy and ran to my closet. I turned my head immediately towards my cousins and just snapped, "You guys have no business talking to my sisters like that. Do it again and I'm going to kick you both where it hurts." Before they could say anything, my sisters ran back in with some shirts and scissors. While they were tearing up the shirts, I started on my youngest sibling who asked me to make her a rainbow skeleton. The cousins were silent while I did her face. Hopefully they'd be silent throughout the rest of the faces. The last sibling asked me to do a Guy Fawkes mask. She had always loved V for Vendetta, so we decided to watch the movie while I did her face. I keep looking at the cousins and only catch their evil eyes. As I was finishing the last one, cousin 1 comes up to the seat and sits down on the chair I used for the girl. I looked at him just sitting in the chair and started packing my stuff up. He looked confused and tried to grab my arm. "What are you doing? Make me look like Darth Maul." He sounded angry. "Why should I do your face? You didn't even ask me to do your face." I continued packing and was walking away. "Just do it. You have all that stuff out." He sounded like a little kid that couldn't have another cookie. My cousins both came up to me and they began to berate me about how I'm such a witch and should just do it anyway because I'd be getting experience. "We shouldn't even have to ask you. You should just do it." Quit being such a witch. We were telling our dad. They finally just walked away and I went into the bathroom to make myself look like Ursula from The Little Mermaid. It took about an hour to finish. And when I came out, they were standing in the living room watching TV with my uncle. Uncle Garrett came up to me and started yelling about how I've always been so ungrateful and don't deserve anything. "My sons are so upset that you won't do their faces and you've ruined Halloween for them. You're lucky you're not my kid or else I would be beating you black and blue." He was still screaming at me when my parent came into the house. "What is going on here? Why are you yelling at my daughter like that? Baby, are you okay?" I didn't even realize I was crying until my dad asked me that. That little witch won't do their faces. She said she would. If she was my daughter, Uncle Garrett got cut off by my dad's angry yelling voice. "She isn't your daughter. You have no right to be yelling at her like that. I've been lenient on you because you're my brother-in-law. But this is it. Pack your stuff and leave. You have until tomorrow morning to be out of here." Dad didn't bother listening to Garrett's protests and started walking away. I looked at my cousins through my tears and was happy to see that they were upset. I should mention that the paint is what really made me tear up. It's water activated. So when I started crying and wiping my eyes, it got in my eyes and made the rest of the makeup run. My dad told me to fix my makeup and to go outside to trick or treat when I was done. I did as I was told and had a blast. When we got home, my uncle and his kids were gone. They spent months at my uncle's baby mama's house. Then she kicked them out because she found out he cheated on her. Last I heard from them, the boys were taken into CPS, and my uncle was in jail because of him not having a house, job, or a way to support them. I don't know the details, but if I did, I'd let you guys know. Growing up, I played hockey from kindergarten to my senior year of high school. It happened more by the fact that when my parents put me on skates at the age of 3, I surprised them by more or less learning to skate in one session. I was like that with most motor skills, a fact that would haunt me later as I got older. As I aged, I developed into a body more built for the offensive line in football, but the constant exercise and massive calorie requirements of ice hockey kept me in good shape through high school. It did mean I was generally 40 or 50 pound heavier than everyone else on the ice. And while it did not affect my top speed, it did affect my acceleration. The predictable result was that I was always passed over for the traveling teams, and I gravitated to football, where I was a defensive lineman. By the time I was in high school, I more or less played hockey for fun and the exercise. I never made the high school team. This is in Minnesota, so it is a much bigger deal there. One of the reasons I loved sports so much was that I had a mild speech impediment. I had a tendency to slur my words if I did not speak carefully. Naturally, I was an easy target for bullies, especially in the 90s when schools were doing their level best to end physical bullying, in essence punishing me harder if I ever retaliated physically for the daily verbal torment I received. Entering my senior year and failing to make the high school team for the fourth and final time, I walked into my junior gold locker room to find an annoyance I knew. We will call him M for the time being. He was 2 years younger and was a scrawny little jerk who liked to harass people verbally. I mostly ignored him. I had moved to the area the year before I started high school, so I did not have the friends the other kids grew up with, and unfortunately this was the type of community that would freeze out people they did not grow up with. M was the kind of person who would target isolated people. He would not dare go after people with their friends. Since I spent my time mostly alone, he would try to harass me. But the obvious difference in size, at senior year, I was 6'3" and 250 pounds of muscle from football, ice hockey, track and field, shot put, and summers spent in the weight room, and the fact I pointedly ignored him didn't give him much. While I ignored him, I did pay attention to what he did to others. In addition to harassing people of both genders verbally, he was also handsy, and more than once had been slapped by girls for harassing them while passing them in halls. He was also inextricably able to get himself out of trouble like that which should have gotten him suspended or expelled multiple times. By the time hockey season started, I really was starting to hate him. Within the school, I was more or less powerless to do anything about it without getting myself expelled, and all I could do at the time was simply bide my time and hope I had a moment I could get him caught or get revenge. I ignored him as I got dressed, and we went through the opening basic drills for practice until we got to a forechecking drill. The drill is meant to get kids to be motivated by going after the puck in the corner after it had been dumped into the corner, and learn to prevent yourself from being hit from behind in the process. M thought a lot of his skills, and to his credit, he was able to move well, though the credit he made was erased by his habit of slashing people with the stick. M thought he would show me up and made sure it was him against me. The first time we went through the drill, he made it to the puck first and tried to dart away, but I knew he was going to make it first this time, and had instead set up to hit him. He was short enough so he hit the boards instead of the glass. I wasn't at full speed, more than half to 3/4, but the fact that I was more than 100 pounds heavier left him a crumpled mess on the ice. With him on the ground, I grabbed the puck and skated away with it. And to piss him off, I went down the ice to the other side of the rink and dumped the puck into the unused net. Our goalie was doing reaction drills off us with a coach and a tennis ball. When I returned to the near blue line, M was there bruised and seething. He started running his mouth, but our coach shut him down. "If you want to play with the big boys, you better be ready for the hits, M," the coach told him. The coach was the father of one of our goalies, and both of them readily hated him. "If you are mad, then hit back legally," he told M, meaning for M to take the Gordie Howe approach and get your revenge without breaking the rules. The coach also had known me for 5 years as I had been on his son's team. Goaltenders tend to like the big defenders who shove people away from the crease and punish people who crash the net on them. By this point, I was well into the coach's good graces, and he knew of my usual trick with dealing with smaller, faster players. We set up for the drill again. This time I was on the outside, and the coach fired the puck so M would be the trailer. I could hear M coming up from behind me, and I guessed that he would cross-check from behind. The kind of dirty move referees almost never call smaller players on when they hit bigger players. Not wanting to take a wooden shaft to my back, I waited until I was nearing the goal line, and then hard stopped, letting my stick in my left hand. I used a lefty stick to touch the puck while plating my feet and dropping my shoulder. M crashed face first into my right shoulder. I had timed it nearly perfectly. He had just enough time to slow marginally, and learned a way backwards, but he could not prevent the hit. In addition to the hit to the face, he promptly fell backwards, slamming back of his helmeted head into the ice. I had lost control of the puck and turned, grabbed the puck, and slowly went back to the line. By the time I reached the line, M was fumbling with the door latch to leave the rink and went off the ice. This was the last time we saw him at our practice, and M played for a U16 that year in a town about 30 miles away. Everything I had done to M was legal moves. Both times I hit him were to control possession of the puck or to brace for a hit I knew was coming. M was conspicuously absent from school that week. I found out later he had a concussion. His mother tried to get me kicked off the team, but the coach and the other parents didn't like her, and most of them hated her kid. She was also my mother's boss and tried to get her fired. My mother worked for the school district and filed a complaint and started documenting M's mother's behavior. M's mother was nearly as hated as he was for more or less the same reasons. Eventually, my mother transferred to a different job in the school district, and M's mother eventually overstepped and was fired because she had been stealing from the district for years and never tried to annoy me again, and he avoided me at all costs after that. In most cases, I never got the chance to get even with bullies like him, and he was a real tormentor of kids his age. But getting the chance to crush a bully without any recourse at all felt real good. Here I am, once again, backstory. It's June and in Bulgaria. It's exam time. All of your final exams, essays, etc. are packed into a week or two. The story is about our philosophy teacher and more precisely her homework. She gave us the essay final. Basically, you write an essay as your final. It's cool because it's easy and not really read and remember. It's like, what would you do if something and why would you do that? You get the idea. She gave us that 2 weeks before the turn-in deadline. That exact deadline was 3 days ago. On to the story now. Story. So a week before the deadline, I was pretty much done. So I decided to show it to my entitled friend. He thinks he owns the world. I made a mistake showing it to him. The only thing he said was, "Nice, that looks great. Nothing less, nothing more." This happened in school. The essay was on my Google Drive. In the afternoon, I'm at home and I get a call from an unknown number. My first guess is that my phone carrier is offering me a new tariff plan, since mine is close to expiration. Nope, I was wrong. It was my entitled friend's mom, our entitled parent. I guess he gave my number to him. Entitled parent. Hello, are you X? Me. Indeed I am. How can I help you? Hey, this is E's mother. He told me that you wrote a great-looking essay. Is that true? I guess. I really like it. Well, can you not turn it in and give it to us? Excuse me, why would I do that? Because my son needs to be noticed. He is a really bad student. First of all, her son really is a bad student. One of the main reasons for that is because his parents constantly took him for unexpected vacations without studying for a fraction of a second and going with the excuse, "I wasn't in class, Miss Meister." Second, our teachers are not goats and don't graze grass. She'll notice that her worst student is now writing a great essay. I'm going to turn in my essay, the one I wrote. You didn't write it. My son did. You stole it. Yeah, whatever you say. All right, we'll be expecting it by Friday, the day before the deadline. Whatever. Click. She hangs up. Of course I didn't. No natural phenomenon can make me not give up my homework, but give it to him. So Friday passed, Saturday, Sunday. And here we go Monday, today 21st June. I already turned it in. Our teacher enters the room, checks if everyone is in class, and starts discussing the essays. Entitled friend is in the beginning of the list of students, and she goes, "Nice teacher. All right, F. It looks like you didn't turn in anything." Entitled friend. That's not true. I've written an amazing essay, but he stole it. Me. What? Nice teacher. What are you talking about? I showed him my essay and he stole it. It was on my Google Drive. Can you show me? No, he stole it. Our teacher is pretty good with computers, to be honest. Nice teacher. Well, he can't delete it from your Google Drive, even if he stole it. It should be on your drive. The entitled friend goes silent and the teacher continues. I am a bit later in the list. She comes up to my name and goes, "Nice teacher. That's a great essay. It's really good. I really liked reading it." She went to everyone from the class. That was the end. Nope. We finished school and on the way to the bus, I was stopped by a lady. It was the entitled parent, of course. "Where do you think you're going? Home? Home? Not until you return my son his essay and tell the teacher you lied." If I say that, that's going to be a lie. Shut up. Shut up. So, just go tell the teacher and everything will be fine for you. Excuse me? Are you threatening me? Yeah, you stole my property. So, what was the essay about? Son? He can't remember. Well, it was about a homeless man. Me. No. You changed it. You stole it and then changed it. First, don't yell at me. Second, even if I stole it and then changed it, that means it's no longer his. Of course it is. Whatever I say is his. My husband is a lawyer. He can take all your homework and give it to my son. I just laugh. My teacher, who noticed this, "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to leave him alone. He stole my son's essay. He doesn't even remember what it is about. Also, I checked his document. It was edited 1 week before the deadline. And your son turned in a blank document. He stole it. This is your last warning to leave him alone. Otherwise, I will call the police." Fine, Ugh. At least give my son an 8. He deserves it more. My teacher, who is visibly confused, says, "Sorry, but your son is the worst in my class. That's not possible," and walks away. That's it. I can't believe what happened over a philosophy final when we have 12 other classes he can work on. But no, let's eat his head over a philosophy and not math, for example.